In order. Tonight, will Commissioner Clark please give our invocation?
Very good. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the opportunity we get to serve you and our city tonight. Give us wisdom as we make decisions. Pray for our first responders. Keep them safe. Give us wisdom as we go through this meeting. Help us to love you and love others more each day. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Roll call.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Here.
Commissioner Thorne,
Here.
Commissioner Clark,
Here.
Commissioner Carter,
Here.
Commissioner Jordan,
Here.
Commissioner Hawkins,
Here.
Commissioner Skeen,
Here.
Commissioner Brumbelow.
Has everyone been able to look over last month's minutes? If so, do I have a first to approve?
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne,
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan,
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen.
Aye.
So moved. First item of business tonight, Ms. Cobb or Mr. Page? Mr. Page will be a request to amend a preliminary plat approval, Crossroads North Subdivision from 70 residential lots and 2 common open space lots to 48 residential lots, 6 commercial lots, and 1 common open space on 34.86 acres located on the southeast corner of US Highway 51 and Green Tea Road in Section 1, Township 3 South, Range 8 West.
All righty. Is that working? Okay. We, of course, saw this at the last meeting, at which time we approved the rezoning on this property. And, of course, the preliminary plat was tabled at that time. Essentially, this would establish an amended preliminary plat. The original plat, of course, showed the entire property as residential with just the small 4.85 acres on the corner, the exact corner of Green Tea and 51 as commercial. With the rezoning that was approved at last month's meeting, that expanded the commercial along the northern portion of the property on the south side of Green Tea there, all the way from the corner to the eastern edge of the property. As a result, that required the preliminary plat to be amended to reflect the new development pattern that they're proposing for the commercial property and to show how that would all fit together with the residential. Now, the residential portion, of course, is R12. You have the, setbacks and lot sizes and lot widths and so forth, as well as information on the C2 portion. Basically, the property has access to water and sanitary sewer services. There are currently proposed 3 access points into this property. One is an extension of Fawn Drive up through the existing Crossroads subdivision, and then a east-west street that runs out to Highway 51, and then a north-south street that runs up to Green Tea Road. As proposed, the preliminary plat, would conform to these requirements with one exception, and that is that we do have a number of lots that fall slightly under the 12,000 square foot minimum lot size within the residential portion of the subdivision. Basically, they're lots 14, 15, 16, 44, 45, 46, 47, and 54. And generally speaking, now that these plats are all done on computer, sometimes they tend to kind of round up, if you know what I mean. So these will just need to be adjusted slightly to get them at least up to the 12,000 square foot minimum lot size. We have not yet, at this point, received a copy of the proposed restrictive covenants, but my understanding is that their intention is to, meet the same provisions as the existing Crossroads subdivision, for the residential portion. Of course, at the last meeting, one of the things that was a point of discussion concerned the access points, and its interconnection with the residential portion of the subdivision. I had suggested that the north-south street, should be converted to a cul-de-sac, and that the commercial lots be prohibited from accessing the east-west street that runs out to 51. At that time, a couple of things came up in that discussion. One was the thinking that green tea in that area was controlled by MDOT and would make it difficult to receive access points on Green Tea Road. I sat down with our city engineer, Joe Frank Lauderdale, and he informed me that that's not the case, that Green Tea Road in that area, although there is a little bit of MDOT right-of-way at the intersection with 51 and some MDOT right-of-way on the overpass of the highway, this area where we're looking at the commercial zoning for this subdivision is not part of the MDOT right-of-way. It was also mentioned that the access rights might also involve DeSoto County. Again, speaking with the city engineer, he informs me that that is not the case, that the access, the granting of access to Green Tea Road is under the city's authority. So I wanted to make those clarifications. Now, one thing that I will mention that has changed since the last meeting, I did have the opportunity to meet with the applicant. They wish to continue to pursue the plat as you have seen it in your packet. They have reflected the 30-foot landscape buffer, but they also have informed me that they're going to limit access to the east-west street, what's shown on your preliminary plat as Road A, that basically, 4, 5, and 6 would not have access onto that road. They have also included information providing for cross-access between the various lots, so that people won't have to necessarily get back out onto Green Tea or 51 to move between the lots. So there is internal interconnections. As far as the proposed motion, basically, as I mentioned before, we need to revise the preliminary plat to address lots 14, 15, 16, 44, 45, 46, 47, and 54. Right now, the streets are are identified as like Street A, Street B, Street C. I think we need actual names for those streets. We need to reflect the easement locations and purposes. And then I have included conditions to convert the northernmost north-south street to a cul-de-sac and to revise the 30-foot wide buffer identified along the southern boundary of the commercial lots to read 30-foot landscape buffer and non-access easement. And then extend the 68-foot wide right-of-way for the northernmost east-west street to its interconnection with the southernmost east-west street. And then finally revise the plat to reflect the location of the cluster mailbox site proposed to serve the development, along with proposals for construction conforming to the recent amendment of the city subdivision regulations adopted by the Board of Aldermen. I guess one thing, that I'm looking at here, and as part of the applicant's arguments in support of their rezoning of this property to commercial at the last meeting, they discussed the fact that with the upcoming reworking of the interchange at Commerce Street and 55, that it will push more traffic onto 55 and Green Tea to get back to McInville Road. I'm concerned about whether or not traffic will back up beyond the two access points, the one on 51 and the one on Green Tea, which would then cause people utilizing the commercial businesses to drift back through Fawn Drive into Crossroads Subdivision to come out onto 51 further south. And that's why I'm recommending limiting access in the way that I have. So, I just wanted to say that because, that's my reasoning, and you're not in any way obligated to agree with it, but I wanted you to know my thinking. Outside of that, we have a condition on the restrictive covenants, that we need to include information on the floor area requirements, the maintenance of the cluster mailbox site, a provision that no amendments may be made to the covenants and recorded unless those amendments have been previously approved by the City of Hernando Planning Commission, and a provision that none of the residential lots may be further subdivided in the future. Then from item 3 on, it's our standard subdivision conditions. And that's my report, unless anyone has any questions.
Questions or comments for Mr. Page? Mr. Page, I guess the question I have as far as the egresses that you're talking about on Green Tea and 51, this project, I haven't heard tentative dates for that exchange at Commerce and 55.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we look at it, it's still temporary. This will be permanent. So if they do this now, it'll be a permanent fixture to what you're requesting.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it something temporary we're doing with their, are we just not accessing those, keep them closed until that's cleared up? Or are we going to go on and let them access those points and,
Well, I think it's up to you to evaluate. I know that, I've been out at 51 and Green Tea during peak periods of traffic now, and have seen substantial traffic, out there as things stand. I agree with what you're saying. Yes, the improvements to the 55 interchange at Commerce Street, will be a temporary situation, while that construction is going on. But I think it's just something that may exacerbate the situation.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Page?
There is not currently anywhere listed the cluster mailbox site.
Not at this point in time. They have a common open space area located on the preliminary plat that's right there on the south east corner of Street A where it intersects with 51. You know, so my anticipation is that's probably where it's going to be located.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Page? Thank you, Mr. Page. Will the applicant please come forward, state your name and address?
George Reedy, 175 East Commerce. Of course, I'm the attorney, and I think, Mr. Byron Houston is the engineer doing this, and he was supposed to be here tonight. I don't actually know why he's not here. Sorry, I apologize. And I have to also apologize because, as Mr. Page alluded to, you got my text, didn't you? I did the best I can. All right, so we met with Mr. Page in my office with the engineer, and we actually have, and I apologize, but I have to assume, unless BJ's got it in his office somewhere, BJ, did you not receive updated plats showing the cross easements and how we cut it off from Road A?
It was after we had everything prepared.
Okay,
I'm
but you
afraid.
do have it,
Yeah,
though?
yeah, I do
Okay,
have it.
all right. Well, do we have any ability to, there's no screen, or I don't guess we have any ability to do anything in here, right? Showing you what it is.
Well,
This is not correct, is what you're saying?
No.
well, it's just.
I've got two, so I mean, I can hand it in here. I don't know what else to do but for everybody to. I'll try to go through a little bit of it while I can. Let me address the things that are on the plat. Mr. Patel, who's present here, you know, he's done development before in Hernando, and he does everything extremely high end. Now, the one that you're probably most familiar with is the very nice C-store that's up there next to the seafood place on Highway 51. So that's a good example of what he builds above the codes and the standards. He is very much living in part of this community, and he intends this to be a development that's going to be even much higher end than what we're used to around Hernando. So I would say, as far as the designation, I thought we discussed it in the meeting that day, but like where the mailboxes are going to be, I think Mr. Patel would wait till he has prefer to wait till he has a much more firmer idea of the actual final layout of the plat of the subdivision, because there's going to be some more fancy things. Well, I just have to say, I'm not an engineer, fancy things added to it, like a fountain in that retainage that I told you about. The restrictive covenants, Mr. Patel has obligated, he is not going to go anything less than what is already in place.
Hard to tell. Basically, they went along through all of this area here. There's a little-
I'll go through every bit of it, BJ, if you
Well,
don't
it's
mind.
just
Just,
it didn't,
oh, it didn't color well?
processing didn't come out.
Oh, okay, all right, well, I'll tell it to him, but while he's handing that out, Mr. Patel is obligated to meet the minimum of what's the restrictive covenants in the adjoining subdivision, which was his will effectively back up to, that's to the south there. But his intent is to be much more restrictive, much more higher end, some higher square footage on the buildings. The shaded area did not come out, but if you will look at, to address Mr. Page's concerns about common access easements between the lots, there's a common access easement. It was a gray shaded area, but I assume your copies did.
I'm trying to figure out the difference between the
You
two.
can see a little bit of it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really bad.
I got you.
Right.
So you're talking about this part right here.
Right. Here.
Oh, yeah, I see it. You see it here.
So the common restriction, common access easements are between lots 1 and 2, right on the dotted line. There's a gray area, it's a 50-foot wide common access easement. Common access easement between 3 and 4, 50 foot on each side of that divider line between those two lots. Common access easement between 5, 3, and 4, running north and south. The common access easement along the north line of Lot 5 runs over to the dotted line, divider line between 5 and 6. So that provides open access easement between every lot, except 1 and 2 from the rest of them, because of course there'd be a public street in between the two, right? So we've addressed the common access easement. Mr. Patel absolutely wanted to make sure there was no access from 5 and 6 to the public street, which is designated as Road A, and we don't have the roads at this time, again, because this is a preliminary plat, and he wants to have more time because he's gonna do some extensive upgraded planning. But there's no access for 5 or 6 to the public street, nor from the back of Lot 4. All the access for all the lots are going to be on Road B. And, right? Does everybody follow that so far? Right, so we addressed the issues of people coming out of the hotels and going through the parking lot. You're gonna have to make the effort to go back to Road B. Now, we do object to any requirements to make the south end of Road B into a cul-de-sac. We think that that is, because of the intersection, because of everything we talked about last time, the traffic on 51 and Green T, you're actually hurting the occupants of the subdivision. Because if the subdivision, the people that live in both those subdivisions, this one he's developing and the one that's developed by somebody else behind it, they were the ones that would be cut off. If they want to go to the C-store, if they want to go to the restaurants or the hotels or the commercial or the retail stores that are going to be there, they're the ones that are cut off from it. We were going to ask the city, and as part of the plat, we can make it part of the plat we would certainly agree that there's no left turns for commercial vehicles off of Road B coming south. That's easy to do, right? Well, you can do it by ordinance if we can't do it by the plat. But no left turns, and in fact, to try to personally enforce that, Mr. Patel agreed to the additional expense of, you will see in the new plat that there is a landscape divider out there now in the main road where it fronts the commercial, the backside of the commercial lots. Can everybody see that? So a landscape divider is a great detriment to 18-wheelers trying to turn left. So Mr. Patel put that in also. That road does narrow down at the end of the commercial. If you're going to the east, Road A narrows down into a subdivision, more of a subdivision size road to deter any commercial traffic through there. And I think, I just have to say, having appeared in front of the board here, and this board and the Board of Supervisors and every other city board, one of the big major thrusts for planning is flow through and ease the connectivity of traffic. And I think what Mr. Page is, I just respectfully have to disagree. I think that you're cutting down on the accessibility and the flow through of traffic. And while that might be a concern, if people feel like, well, they're going to go through the subdivision, clearly we've done everything you can to try to discourage commercial vehicles from going through there. Other than delivery vehicles, they can always go. People in the cars they might potentially do that if they want to drive all the way back down to the south of that subdivision that's already being built in there. That's a possibility, but that's already going on everywhere around Hernando. If y'all live here like I do, you know that goes on everywhere. So again, the restrictive covenants are going to be, are going to be higher than Crossroads North, which is the existing the existing Crossroads subdivision. They're gonna be more restrictive than that. And then quite honestly, I just noticed the 12,000 squid on the square footage, because again, I'm not an engineer, but that could be fixed by just adjusting of the interior lines of the lots, I believe. Does anybody have any questions or think that I hadn't addressed anything?
Yeah, Mr. Reedy, I don't know that I agree with everything. I mean, everything looks great except for that road. Is there a way
Which
to,
one? I'm
road A?
Road A? Okay.
Road A, yeah. I don't know that I agree with cutting residents off from commercial. I mean, I don't leave my neighborhood to go to a hotel. I typically travel out of town to go to a hotel, so I'm not really interested in crossing that street to go to a hotel. And I care more about my neighborhood than whether or not my convenience to cut over to a C-store. So I'm not sure I really agree with that argument. And the divider to cut off 18-wheelers turning left, that's a good idea. I like that improvement. And no, we're not going to be able to stop delivery vehicles from going straight across that intersection into the residential area. It does happen. Most of the time, and I'm just comparing my neighborhood, delivery vehicles in my neighborhood are there because they're looking for a house in that neighborhood, not because they made a wrong turn, most of the time. Is there a way, my question is there a way to swap Road A and Road C? Because one of my other additional concerns is Road A is closer to that green T intersection, which, as Mr. Page mentioned, traffic slowing down right there to turn right or turn left, that might be a bottleneck, but if we give it more of a buffer gap by moving the entrance to that residential area back to Road C and just swap the cul-de-sac with the access point, does that make sense? I know it's adjustment, you've got a nearly 57,000 acre, I guess that's the common area you're referring to? Just flip that around?
So what are you gonna do with the bigger trucks, like big commercial vehicles then? Because then they would for sure, are you saying like close that access at Road A and open it up at Road C?
Yes.
Okay, so then you're absolutely forcing the commercial traffic to come down through the residential part of the.
I thought commercial traffic was Green Tea Road only. Did I misunderstand that earlier?
No, I think that.
So commercial traffic
18
and
wheelers are gonna
residential
be able to
traffic
come
is both
south
Road A?
You're gonna be able to exit to the right on Road B and then take a right immediately out to 51.
So Road A is both residential and commercial traffic?
Right there, yes, sir. That's why I said that's why we put it up, so you wouldn't be any left turns. And then we could post a sign either on the plat or by ordinance saying no left turns for commercial vehicles, which you can do. You can restrict streets to commercial vehicles.
Is there a way to restrict commercial only to Green Tea? Is there a way to, and again, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know, tell me if this is impossible, but the easement between 5 and 6, can you extend that out to Green Tea to make a second access point off Green Tea?
Well,
between 5 and 6? Make that an access road into the commercial area?
It's
I
possible.
honestly can't answer that question. Right?
Yeah, because I don't know what,
It's,
I don't
I
even.
mean, it's possible.
Green tea, though, goes at a pretty steep incline right
It
there.
does.
is the only
It's
thing.
That's what I mean, in
high.
engineering, I don't know
Yeah,
how that would
you're,
work.
You're probably creating an extremely dangerous place, and I know it's in the city's jurisdiction, but I'm just telling you, I've seen the development, right, because that's the designated access road for the 18-wheelers coming out of AWG to get on 269. They either got to go that way. That's the designated routes. I think they may be able to go north on 51, but I'm not sure about that. I think that's the designated route, so they're going to be coming through there. And because of the design of that and because of the state putting in that red light there as part of the development for AWG,
those two
I may be
access
completely
points would
wrong,
be
but I
really
think they've got
close.
some control in there now.
Okay.
Those two access points would be really close together too on Green Tea.
Yeah, I think you'd be asking for trouble if you put two close together going to the north off Green Tea.
Who's gonna maintain the landscaping on the buffer on Road A? Or not the buffer, but the median in the middle of Road A?
I guess that's gonna be the homeowners association is gonna be.
The commercial entities can't be included in the maintenance of that? Restrictive covenants, you do them all at one time.
I think the owner can do that on
Yeah,
covenants that he imposes on the purchasers of the,
Oh, I
of
see
the
what you mean. I was
commercial
just thinking
lots.
about that.
commercial and residential.
Yeah.
I mean, my thought was just that there are gonna be some 18-wheelers that turn left there, whether
They're
they're
gonna
supposed
try,
to or not.
yeah.
And they're gonna run over whatever landscaping is there on the
Oh,
corner.
well, yeah, I'm well familiar, you know where my office is, you know, that's a big hot contention point for me. That's no commercial vehicles, and they turn over it, they drive over it. That's why there was no pretty flowers there this summer, because, the city won't stop them from running over it, knocking down the street sign, and
Yeah.
tearing up my expensive flowers I put in there to try to make Hernando look beautiful. It does happen, yeah.
Well, this is an opportunity preliminary to really try to figure out what the best way to minimize that congestion of traffic right there. And no offense to whoever buys lots 42 and 43, but that's going to be a busy corner out there front porch.
Any other questions or comments from Mr. Reedy?
Can I have just a moment?
Do you see any?
And take a little sitting down, more than I can do right here. I'm sure they're,
You see what I was talking about, right? Take this one all the way out.
Any other questions or comments from Mr. Reedy? Thank you, Mr. Reedy. Is there anyone here for or against this application? If you'll please come forward stating your name and address.
Come at once, your neighbors, all of
Uh,
us.
One at a time, please.
Hello, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, I got my eyes
No,
dilated
that's all
today,
right.
so this light is killing me. I'm Candace Neely, I'm 262 Crossroads Boulevard. I actually, from my backyard, I can see BP and 269 and Crossroads Seafood. I'm against it, and the reason I am is a couple of reasons, but for one, I bought that specific lot for the scenery, the area. I specifically did not want any more houses behind us. Also, with that being said, I can still hear Crossroads Seafood music, especially on Fridays when they have the karaoke and whatnot. That, I'm not complaining about it, but I still hear it. I still hear all the loud trucks and 18-wheelers go by. So the disruption, even with my 2- and 4-year-old, it wakes them up. So I'm a little nervous. This is my first one. But I guess I didn't pay the amount of money, or we didn't pay that amount of money to have to deal with hotels. We didn't sign up for none of this. So with all due respect, I just don't. I don't agree with it. And then on top of, we already have a upcoming factory that's down the street, not too far from us, that's just creating more traffic. So you got that plant that's up and coming. We have, the hotels and the other businesses. It's just too much. So we already don't have the road, and as far as I'm concerned with, we stay behind a ditch. That water is running right through Mr. Cal's land. So are y'all gonna fix that water and it's gonna back up into our land, or how is that gonna work? You know what I mean? So it's a lot of concerns with that. But, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Marcelina Chapman, and I'm at 278 Crossroads Boulevard. Candace and I are neighbors, and I have the same issues that she has. I am fully against it. As she stated, I didn't purchase my home, which was recently in July of last year, to deal with hotels and commercial properties. But my question that I have is that we as homeowners, we have not even seen the plat. We haven't seen any of this. We haven't seen, so we don't know what's going where, if that makes sense. We don't know what's coming behind us. We don't know if it's a house coming behind us or if it's a hotel coming behind our houses. And as she stated, we bought our homes for the scenery. So is there gonna be a hotel behind us? Is there gonna be houses behind us? 51 and Green Tea, it takes us 10, 15 minutes to get out of our, just to get out of our where we live. And I'm lot 2, she's lot 3. There's a lot 1 right there at 51. It takes us 15, 20 minutes to get out of our own, just to get out of our homes, just to turn right or left. So I can just imagine if they build hotels or commercial property right behind us. And like I say, we don't know because we haven't seen the plat. So we don't know where the hotel is gonna be. We don't know where the houses are gonna be. There's a water, a drain, I don't know what you call it. I'm not an engineer, but it's coming right downside their house. They don't even have a backyard. At least we have a backyard, but it's not a full backyard. My question is, if there's gonna be a house behind us, are they going to build that dirt up to whereas, is the water gonna come down on us? Where is this water going to go? Because right now, it's just sitting in the, where Cal's property, where the property line is at, it's just sitting there. So where is it gonna go? I am totally in disagreement with what they're proposing. And as she stated, no disrespect to you, and I enjoy Crossroads, seafood, and the BP station. And as he stated, it is a high-end service station. Not to say that we're not gonna get high-end hotel or houses or anything to that, but it's just, this should have been given to us prior to moving into these expensive homes. There were several other people that were supposed to have showed up for the meeting, so we're not the only neighbors that is against it. It's the whole side, all of us are. So I just wanted to bring that to the board. Thank you all.
And just for some knowledge there, is when you bought your home, that homeowner didn't have intentions at that time, or that landowner to develop or whatever. So, things evolve and change at times. They wouldn't have known at that time. If they did, it would have been presented, but, so I understand that too, but as city grows,
Yes.
owners decide, hey, I'm not gonna build houses there, I'm gonna build, if we rezone it or whatever that they can, so, and we didn't approve any type of preliminary plat, therefore, that's why you haven't seen one, because there's nothing there yet, so it's not been approved, so. But if you heard them talking, they did state that there was gonna be homes backing up to that, and the closer Green Tea sides where the commercial is.
You're welcome to look at mine.
It's
if you
homes
want.
backing up to our
Yes,
homes?
so,
You know.
in statement to the noise, that might help alleviate some of it from what just being open, so.
We have 18-wheelers that come down that road, and it's there, it needs to be a speed limit, honestly. Yes, 51. 18-wheelers that are constantly coming. I can't even put a picture up on the wall, because 18-wheelers are constantly coming up and down that highway, and that speed limit needs to drop some. And I know this isn't the
That's
place.
state highway, that's
I know
out of
this
the
isn't the place, but I'm
city.
just,
Yes, ma'am.
Houses right next to, that's gonna be a lot.
Is it,
but that's it.
yes, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you.
She's got
Good.
it, too.
Yeah, I'm James Neely. That's my wife Candace. We stay in 262 Crossroads Boulevard. Just to add to pretty much what they were saying, I'm of course in disagreement with it. The warehouse or factory that is being, I guess, is being built still hasn't even opened, and so that's going to definitely add to the traffic. I mean, it's going to be ridiculous. It's already ridiculous to the people who are working in order to get it established to, for it to open up. It's already people turning. I don't know if there's going to be a light there. I don't know if they're, that's going to improve it. I don't even know if I'm talking to the right group as far as this is concerned. But I don't understand why there was not an exit off of the Highway 51, because the warehouse that they're building was being built before they even opened up the, what is it, on Mickenville? They opened that up. Nobody understood why they did not put an exit there, especially knowing that there's going to be traffic coming to and from that warehouse. Doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who thinks that. On top of that, they're going to have to, I feel like they should probably widen up the roads. I mean, that may help, may not. Either way it goes, we're going to run into traffic. It's going to be extra traffic and saturation for the whole area. It's ridiculous just thinking about it. And he mentioned, no disrespect, of course, but he mentioned it being a dangerous zoning. I mean, you have kids, our kids are going to be, which there are multiple families in our neighborhood, of course, and there's going to be more. They're going to have to worry about traffic coming in, and not just commercial traffic. They're going to have to worry about people coming in and turning. We already see people speeding up and down our road as it is. And so there's going to be extra traffic. So now we have to be worried about that with our kids running around playing, going wherever. If we just wanted to go to the store to get some gas, I mean, that's extra traffic to do that. I don't understand what the whole logic behind it is. It doesn't make sense to me, and I'm sure, like I said, I'm not the only one. Of course, there's other people in our neighborhoods, but yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. And like I said, again, no disrespect, but, and the commercial, what is it, a hotel that's being built? What other, is there any idea of what other commercial businesses that are being built? Anything, any idea?
I don't think we don't know. We haven't been given that info, and they don't have to give it to us at this point.
Yeah.
They really don't know. But
I don't mind saying it, y'all.
Yeah, so once you get done, we'll let Mr. Reedy, and everything has to be directed to the commission, so we'll ask that he speaks loud so that y'all can hear on what their plans are. But, we're here to hear the zoning, and that's all in a subdivision. But again, we don't vote on what's going in there and what's not allowed.
What about so not even the streets being widened or expanded, or?
I mean, that's what we're working out
The exits?
tonight on some of that stuff, and that's what they presented, so.
Okay.
The
overall
exits
layout.
are an MDOT issue.
Okay.
The exit ramps for I-69 are done by MDOT and determined by MDOT.
Okay. All right. Is there a meeting for that? I'm saying, do they take meetings for that, or they just establish that and come up with their plan on their own?
Correct me if I'm wrong, BJ, but or Kendra, if you have concerns regarding that, you can contact MDOT, which they have an office in Batesville, is that correct? Any concerns with exits or the development of I-69, you can contact MDOT's office.
All right.
The closest branch is in Batesville.
All right.
And the plat that they gave her shows that the commercial is gonna be down at the other end by
Towards
Green
Green
Tea.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
from you all.
it really doesn't matter where they put it at. I don't feel like that would make a difference whether they put it there or on the opposite side of us, or it's still going to be traffic that's being created, because like I said, there's schools, there's extra jobs, of course, their warehouse and everything, and then on top of that, the hotels and other residents, and it's going to be a big, it's going to be ugly when it happens in the end of the day. And I'm sure people will hear more about it once everything opens up. If everything opens up how it's planned on doing, I'm sure there will be other concerns, and I can guarantee you that.
The zoning has already been determined. the zoning, I believe, goes before our Board of Aldermen. But tonight's meeting is just regarding the subdivision layout of the lots.
Mm-hmm, okay. All right. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, yeah. Appreciate it.
Is there anyone else here for or against this application? Mr. Reedy, I think you're gonna let them know kind of what was going, if you'll speak to us loud enough to.
Sure. Just a couple of responses. As I said in the first time of presentation, there'll be a C-store on the corner, Green Tea and 51. There'll be some commercial sales on the, right behind that to the south, which was going to front on that Road A. It will be a restaurant in Lot 4. That's a restaurant spot in Lot 4, which also fronts on the Road A to the south. And then it would be a hotel. There'll only be one done, and in the future development, 5 and 6 will be potentially other hotels. So that's what it's, how it's, and yes, I think there's, can make sure that there's a whole band of houses between the commercial and existing crossroads. And as I understood it, these nice folks were all from the existing crossroads, is that right? Right, all right. So, and before I make a comment about that, I was going to say, Mr. Thorne, I would say this is probably the reason why Road A needs to remain your access road, further away from the existing crossroads subdivisions and not within the residential area. I realize it's going to be close to where that red light is, but I would submit it's better for inconvenience because of backed up traffic to be on the commercial property rather than the residential. And I'm afraid the further you move it down south, the more it's going to interfere and be an inconvenience to residential people. And might impact these nice people even more. And I know y'all hear this all the time, the same kind of things, and I get it, I understand, and Commissioner Hawkins and I particularly probably understand the complaints because we grew up here. And I used to say when I was on the bench, and these people don't know that, so I'll just say, you know, I used to have the final say about all this when people didn't like it and they appealed to me. And I would always have to say, and I'd say honestly, I'd say, look, you know, I'm sorry that it's the inconvenience, I'm sorry that it's this way, but this is the way that the world changes, because Commissioner Hawkins and I, we were here before almost 99% of the people here, right? And maybe some other commissioners, but I just have known him since I was a kid. And we probably preferred just to be the Hernando the way it was when we were little kids. I preferred if nobody was here, and it was still my granddaddy's farm, and I could go hunt birds and rabbit anywhere I wanted to because I was George Banks's grandson. You know, but everybody wants to move to DeSoto County because it's a great place to live, it's a great place to raise your children. We have great schools. Our roads are in relatively good shape because our supervisors and cities have done good jobs, so everybody wants to come here. But, you know, we can't close the door behind us, right? When we get here, everybody else wants to come behind you, and that's what all this development is. And the farmer that owns the land next to you, he's entitled to get $1 million for his property, his cow pasture, just like the guy who sold the pasture where your house is sitting now is entitled to do that. So I feel for you, I understand it, but it's really not something that can stop development and stop how we proceed. So, and again, Mr. Patel is going to be doing a higher-end subdivision than these nice people live in, which is actually going to raise their property values. It's not going to be able to help them with the traffic, but this, if we didn't build any of this, it's not going to affect the traffic that's on Highway 51 and the traffic that as it's going to grow. And as we know, I don't have to tell y'all, but these nice people don't know this. You know, it's the state budget that has to do with building and widening Highway 51, and it's the federal and state budget that has to do with the accesses to highways. And they can't build an access where the logical one is they can't build one because of the relation in 51 and 55. Federal regulations prevent that. That's why McInville was done. so people could get on there for the access. So it's an unfortunate circumstance, because I promise you, I'd like my grandchildren not to see any houses anywhere, but it just that's not the real world, and I'll be glad to answer any other questions if any of the commissioners.
Anything else from Mr. Reedy? Thank you, sir.
Well, Mr. Reedy, one last, and you might not know this is probably an engineering question, but that common open space, that 1.3 acres, do you know what is the intent? Is that going to be like a stormwater type thing,
The
or?
retention pond is going to be in there also.
Okay.
But Mr. Patel has not, again, this is the preliminary plat, so he hadn't felt it. We've actually talked about some additions to that and possibly making some of these lots that front on 51 into potential open space also. So it hadn't been finalized, but that common area is going to be the retention pond with the fountain put in it and then some green space around it. That's as it stands right now.
I would just, the one comment that I have is that I would like to see some type of buffer between residential and commercial that is substantial, whether that be the common open space and some green space separating the two, but I personally, I don't like the two mixing. I think the plat layout could be redesigned so we don't have quite as much, they're not so quite close together and share access.
Well,
That's my only comment.
of course, they're going to join someplace, and I think that this plan, tell me if I'm wrong, BJ, I think the plan meets the requirements of the building code for the city of Hernando as far as the buffer zone, because it shows a 30-foot landscape buffer. And then you'll see, I don't really know how you do that, Mr. Skeen, honestly, because then instead of having houses back right up to the commercial, you've got the addition of the distance of the street, and that's an extra wide street. That's 68-foot right-of-way on top of the 30-foot buffer. So you're talking about almost 100 feet between the commercial and the residential. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I feel like I could probably draw something up that I would like.
I'm not an engineer.
Just tell me. Yeah.
Mr. Page, something.
Well, I was just going to point out, what Mr. Reedy said, that the plat does show a 30-foot buffer, landscape buffer, which is required by our ordinance, that be provided, between commercial and R12, which is what the zoning is, to the south. The thing that I think we lose track of sometimes, because, we're thinking landscape buffer, we're thinking about, trees and bushes and things of that nature. But part of the ordinance requirement, for these types of buffers is a 6-foot masonry wall.
Right.
So it's
I think the 1.3 acre common open space could be spread out as a buffer between the two, is what I'm saying, rather than just a block where you stick the detention basin.
Well,
I mean,
what
just
you-
personally, that's just I think it could be done a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, I guess. A little more green space in there, But that's just my opinion.
Any other questions or comments?
I guess the lots that aren't 12,000 square feet, they'd be fixed and they'd be part of the final plat? Is that how
Yes,
that
sir.
would be done?
Yes, sir.
Because, I just asked that because it sounds like that at least is gonna have to be changed.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments from Mr. Reedy? Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here for or against this application? Please come forward.
I just have one more question.
Please come.
Y'all might not have an answer for it, but I know it's gonna be more traffic coming in, more people coming in, and we are close to Memphis. So as far as the safety hazards, as far as police and, I don't want that traffic coming if that makes sense. The bad traffic, because everybody's trying to get out of Memphis, everybody is coming this way, like you said, and are we gonna get more police involved? Are we gonna, you know, just to keep our town to the minimum of, you know, problems, you know, so,
That's more of a board of aldermen and mayor.
again, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
that, again, we understand those issues, we do, but
Yeah.
that's not the issues we address.
It's just zoning.
That would be at the board of aldermen and mayor hearing that you could come up and, you know, speak and ask those questions, because that's who's gonna put that in place too, so.
Okay, well, just let me know when that meeting is. 'Cause I will be
This,
there.
this won't go to the Board of Aldermen if we approve it, right? Or, because,
It's still, yeah.
Yeah.
because it's an amendment, though,
Well, okay, first,
preliminary.
this is a preliminary plat.
Yeah.
Under our ordinance, preliminary plats don't go to the board, okay? But the rezoning, you know, where we approved the commercial zoning on the northern part of the property, that does go to the Board of Aldermen next Tuesday, which is the 15th, in this room at 6 o'clock. So, you know, in terms of many of the issues that you and your friends have brought up, that's where you want to be. Okay? You bet.
And one more thing, Mr. Reed, just about the buffer, and it really, buffer and traffic pattern, really, that's, you know, I did like the idea of not having commercial traffic intermingle with the residential.
Is there, yeah, I agree. Is there a way to come up with alternate? I know that's a lot of work, Mr. Patel. Is there a way to do various alternate plans to show us ways not to mix commercial and residential traffic?
If you would be willing to take a look at the layout and come up with, you know, something that's a little bit more
Just where
palatable.
those two, Road A and Road B, is it Road B? Road A and Road B, right where they intersect, I see a lot of problems right there.
Well, I'll just, again, I'm not an engineer. Mr. Skeen's got me at a great disadvantage here. I'm not sure about this, but I'll just say, you know, of course, again, that you're going out on the state highway, which access is controlled by the state highway department, so we're gonna have to meet their rules first and foremost, right? So they're not gonna allow, it's not like the old days, you know, you can't just go out from the whole parking lot onto the street anywhere. So they're gonna, there is a requirement for defined entrance and exits.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, so
everything is
I
met.
don't think they're gonna allow one. I think they're gonna have to have, they're gonna require
Yeah.
one on 51 and one
Well,
on
that's why I'm just
3T.
looking at, is there other, because we're only looking at one idea. And, you know, it's met, if not exceeded, the ordinances, you know, the
Right,
city
yeah.
of Hernando ordinances. And I've heard discussion about, and, you know, your design across the street at the BP, there's no doubt this is gonna be a high-end, good-looking neighborhood. But if we're gonna do a high-end, good-looking neighborhood, let's put the same amount of attention to how we're gonna control that traffic that's gonna affect neighborhood behind it, coming off Green, all that futures, that's part of why we're here, kind of foresee where things are going in the future too. So I'm just concerned about that intersection in itself. I don't know I'm not an engineer. I'm gonna leave that to you, buddy.
Yeah, and I don't know either. I'll just say, again, I don't know any other way you do it, besides the
I don't-
commercial obviously has got to be on the corner, right? Because that's where y'all already passed the rezoning, which is now pending, but there's already commercial there. Let's remember that, right?
Right.
We can't go backwards, there's commercial there. We just added
Correct.
to the commercial.
Right.
We increased the size of it a little bit, that's all, right? So, it seems to me, though, to redesign the road, logically, you're talking about forcing in, you're taking away the opportunity to use the road as an additional buffer between residential and commercial.
Well, it goes back to
Do
Mr. BJ's first recommendation to make a cul-de-sac out of Road A coming in.
Road A?
Yeah, wasn't that?
Road
That's
B.
B.
Yeah, Road B.
Oh, Road
but
B,
he
yeah,
wanted to
sorry,
go north
sorry,
and south.
yeah, you're right, that's right.
Yeah, he was aiming for Road A.
No, my mistake. Yeah, make a cul-de-sac out of Road B.
Plus, you gotta remember, lot 2 there is retail, designated for retail sales. So he's gonna be kind of wanting that access to Road A. You know, and again, I think the highway department is going to, they're gonna require 2 exits, not 1. So you're talking about something's gonna have to be coming out on Highway 51, and something's gonna have to be coming out of Green T.
For the commercial, but I guess could the residential go all the way through to the crossroads, to the existing entrances, or is that
That's
unfeasible?
a stub out over here on Road, wasn't it?
Well, where
Road C, yeah, you could,
it goes all the way around back to the
Road
crossroads.
C kind of cuts back around.
I don't, that may not be feasible, I don't know.
That could be the access point, and then you could have a cul-de-sac at the end, on the north end of, I guess it would be the south end of Road B, where the intersection is. There are some possibilities, and I would like to see some effort made, you know, in that direction. I mean, I don't want to, and I'm in your store almost every day. I live in Green Tea Subdivision, so I'm in there probably more than anybody in this room. I use your store all the time, and it's a nice place, and I know you do good stuff. I want this to, and this is my backyard, you know, and I want it to be nice, and I don't want a bunch of people inconvenienced with truck traffic in the neighborhood. And if there's a way to accomplish that, I would just like to see that happen. That's my only comment.
Is there anywhere else in Hernando, BJ, or you might be able to answer this, or the board, somebody else on the commission, where there's a road that separates in this manner the residential, I
Where
guess.
it's shared, like a
Where it's
shared.
shared, yeah, the residential in a subdivision like
I
this,
don't know.
in commercial. I'm just trying to think of an example. I mean, I guess maybe not even in Hernando. There's something,
well, somewhat like it is Bank Court South at McInville and Byhalia. I call it Byhalia. Mount Pleasant, you know, because then you've got the
home.
retirement community wrapping all around it. Yeah, and it's kind of like that. And then I think there's several developments that are coming like this. But, you know, that area is just starting to explode up there,
I
so.
mean, well, I'm just, something that's already established, get an idea. I mean, I just feel like that might help conceptualize, for us to conceptualize what we're looking at. With just you know, obviously there's a buffer, but also, you know, with a road separating the residential and the commercial aspect.
Well, I mean, I think maybe people know in here, but I think I have to, it's my legal ethical duty to point out, right, if a person meets the stated requirements for the city of Hernando, there's really not a basis to turn it down, not a legal basis. Now, we certainly want to work with the planning commission to do everything we can to make it acceptable to everybody. And he's going to, like I said, he's already committed to be building above the requirements of restrictive covenants for Crossroads, where these nice people live. So it's going to be higher end anyway. But I have to point that out. So we certainly will try to work, but this is more than exceeds or passes the.
I mean, it's up to you, this board, to determine where to put these roads and how these roads are gonna look. I mean, certainly you can, that's your job to do. I respect what Mr. Reed is saying, but if that were the case, there would be no reason for you to be sitting here. So it is incumbent upon you to decide what you think is best, as long as all the ordinances are still met. I mean, you could put the road between parcel 1 and 2. That'll solve that problem. You know,
Well, it puts you closer to this intersection.
sure it does. But
Yeah.
you just, like Mr. Page suggested, a cul-de-sac. There's lots of ways to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish, but it's not, don't be threatened to do what you think is best.
Well, I think we're missing the point. You know, I agree with what Mr. Reedy has said, you know, that if it meets our standards, you really can't turn it down. However, I don't think anybody here is talking about turning it down. And as Steve has pointed out, you do have the authority to make design decisions about the proposals that are put forward. You know, if you decide that it should be a cul-de-sac, then that becomes a condition of the approval, not a purpose for denial, you know? So, you know, I think that, that you have the ability to make changes in what an applicant proposes, you know, but I agree with Mr. Reedy that it's very difficult to just out and out deny something, but you can require changes to be made.
And that's all
This
we're
is
asking.
more of a request.
Yeah, and
This is-
I don't disagree with
Mine
that.
is a
but-
request to take a look at it and see if we could do something different.
All right, but I'm just trying to figure out what it might possibly be, right? Because if you made Road C the entrance on to 51, made that the main road of the subdivision, then,
I mean, I don't think we can do
How
it
are we
right. I
get-
mean,
how are we gonna
Mr.
get-
Houston would have to sit down and spend some time.
Right,
It's
then-
not something we can do here.
right, and then you've got,
Repeat
you know,
redesign.
then you've got houses right up, they're even closer to the commercial, which bothered a couple of you guys.
Yeah, just, I want to be clear, there's no interest in denying this at all, and throwing the legal card. Personally, I don't speak for the rest of the board, but I'm a little insulted by that remark.
Well, I
Because
took it
what's the
into
point
that
of,
way.
what's the point
I'm
of
just trying
saying
not to
that
get in the
if you meet
trick
the,
bag.
if you meet the ordinances that that we have no reason legally to deny it, then why are we here?
No, I didn't, well, if I didn't express it well then, so I apologize if I offended anybody, certainly for you, Mr. Thorne, but you just like Mr. Page says, you do have the right.
And that's all we're
To
asking,
get
is
your
is there
input
some
on
other
how your design
ideas
is,
to
yeah.
manage the traffic? That's all
Right.
we're thinking about here, because as the board has mentioned, we're a little concerned about sharing commercial and residential traffic in this design. And this is the only design that we're looking at. So the request, as Mr. Skeen pointed out, we're just requesting, can we see an alternate design that may accommodate either a better way of sharing that traffic or completely buffering it to where the residential and commercial don't share the same road? I don't know, I'm not the engineer, I don't know the answer to that. We certainly can't make that decision tonight, but that's where I am at this point.
Okay. Can I have just one moment?
That's right.
Technically, but, I mean, I understand, that's fixed.
Mr. Thorne, I just want to be clear, since you expressed you felt like, and I apologize you felt that way, but I was speaking more to like
I may have misheard.
the 30-foot landscaping buffer and everything, we're meeting all those requirements, but no, we can certainly talk about trying to arrange the roads, but I mean, I'm just honestly, I'm not an engineer, and I'm just confounded at how you could address the issues of separating commercial from residential, but trying to keep commercial buffered as much as you could from all the residential, especially these people in the adjoining subdivision over there that express concerns about the traffic. I'm just afraid we push more traffic down there, it's gonna be worse. So I just don't know how to do it.
I wish Mr. Houston would have been here to, maybe could have answered some of these questions as well.
I apologize for that. I'm not sure why he's not here.
But yeah, if you're willing to take it back and look at it and do something, that we can table it, or if you're not, if you don't want to do that, if you want us just to make a vote, we can do that. I'm kind of asking the question, are you willing to take a look at it?
Yeah, we'll come up with, as you said, come with like 2 or 3 different options.
That'd be great. Man, I'd really appreciate that if you could
And
do that.
also, that is the reason we had put, the landscaping buffer on the road, 10 feet. So,
Yeah, we're gonna get you to say your name and address too, sorry.
Ron Patel. So that is the reason we had added the landscaping buffer between the road. And the commercial traffic coming in from Road B, from Green Tea, they will not be able to, we can put a sign, and also they won't be able to make a left turn sign. And even for them to turn their 18-wheeler, they cannot do it. And also have access roads between all the commercial sites, so they do have access between amongst them. But the main reason is I want that road open is because the subdivision people should be able to get off on Road B to catch the interstate on Green Tea. So that actually flows the traffic better than we blocking, that road for the neighborhood to go out on Green Tea, rather than they going out on 51, then again making a right turn on Green Tea. So this will ease up the traffic, I think, having the subdivision get out on.
I think once we heard Mr. Page's recommendation on the cul-de-sac and kind of separating the two developments from commercial to residential, and I think we all we liked that idea, and it's stuck, and it's kind of hard to get away from it now, honestly.
I would
That's
just like
my-
to add, I don't, as far as Road A, from the backside, from the corner there of B and A, I really don't know a way not to allow commercial traffic to turn right at go Highway 51, because otherwise you're forcing the commercial traffic out on the Green T and then immediately into the left lane to try to go south on 51. So, we just have to try to figure out a way we can restrict, make y'all happier about the restriction of commercial traffic going right. And I'm certainly we're open to suggestions, if anybody can help us with an idea other than
Well,
that.
at this point, are you open to tabling it and then coming back with different ideas? I mean, that prevents us from voting tonight.
Yeah, we can do that. We can come back with the because the engineer is not here. So we can try to rethink and come up with maybe a couple options. So
That'd be great.
I think keeping the two, I know you like the idea of them being tied together, but I think most of the commissioners like the idea of them being separated.
But then, people from the neighborhood houses doing on Green Tea, actually it will ease up the traffic. And however, the commercial is not going to come in because of the landscaping divider, and also a sign stating that no left turn. So there's only one lot, they make a right turn, they have access on 51, and at the same time, the neighborhood people can catch on Green Tea and get on making well in the interstate. So this actually we have put lots of thoughts in it, and after Mr. BJ's recommendation last time, we have added the landscaping buffer, and we also asked them to have a wall. So I do feel that to separate them will create more traffic problem than to have that just one-way traffic.
Mr. Jordan, did you say that, we don't know of another place?
Well, no, we don't, and I was even gonna add, if it does get tabled, it might not hurt, if you wanna keep that access on Road B going all the way through, and Road A connecting everything, it might not hurt if there's some kind of visualization that you can bring in. I don't know of another, a picture from another subdivision or anything like that. Maybe Mr. Houston's
Similar
worked
development.
on something.
That'd give us time to go think about it.
It might alleviate some of the concerns you're hearing up here.
Roundabout do that? I don't know, I'm not.
Was what now?
Does a roundabout, would that prevent prevent going, commercial going into the subdivision?
A roundabout
make
takes a
it-
lot more space though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does eat up,
It'd
well.
take more room.
it's-
You'd knock out those two
I'm just trying to figure out
corners.
something that would allow the residents to be able to go to Green Tea, because I think that's important for the residents, right?
Well,
Yeah,
that's an interesting question, because do we have surveys or data that says residents would prefer cutting through a commercial property to get to a different road? Because Green Tea to the right would take you up to Mackingvale. Otherwise, they get out on Highway 51, go 100 feet, turn right. So is it an inconvenience for them to go out on 51? Or is it an advantage to go and cut through commercial to get to Green Tea? And that's, we're making perceptions on what future residents might or might not want to do.
And I don't want to beat it to death either, and I know we've spent a lot of time on it, but like, for instance, Road C could go all the way through to Green Tea, and then all the lots north of Road C would be cul-de-sacs, and then you have,
So Road C could go to Green Tea?
no, I'm sorry, to Highway 51, I'm sorry, go through all the way through. That would be your access point. And then you would have cul-de-sacs. Everything north of there would stop at a cul-de-sac to access those lots. And that would separate the two, and it would give you access on 51 further south of the intersection, for instance. And that's just one solution. But if you're good with, taking a look at it, I think we would like to see some more.
We will come up with something alternative, study of, how it can be. But my main thing is to have the residents should be able to want green tea. However, the commercial is not going to be able to come in because of the big landscaping divider. They cannot even make a left or, turn. So the traffic for the neighborhood people to get on 51 or green tea would really help the traffic. But we'll come up with, something if we can think of or put together.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
To this point, the applicant is requesting the table, so do I have a motion to?
I have a quick question. How many times have we tabled this? Just the one time?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So do I have a motion to table this item until we need a date as well, which I would assume would be next month? Mr. Reedy? We're going to table this till next month's meeting, or do y'all need more time than that, or?
Now that's, what's that, 30 days? What day is
So
it?
that is going to be, I believe, April 12th.
Is that enough time, Mr. Patel? 30 days? Do you want 2 months or 1 month? Okay.
I know he doesn't want to wait too much.
We need to ask his engineer.
So the
I make a motion to table.
Second?
Until April 12th.
Make the
Mr.
motion.
Skeen.
Oh, second,
Make the motion
April.
for April 12th.
Oh, I'm sorry, make a motion to table until the 12th.
Thank you.
And again, you do really nice work, and I enjoy your store.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne,
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan,
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins, Commissioner Ashworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen.
Aye.
The motion to table this item until the April 12th meeting passes. All right. All right, Mr. Page, item number 2, request for a preliminary plat approval for the Oak Grove subdivision, 7 lots, 20.03 acres, located on the north side of West Oak Grove Road, west of Scott Road, and east of Oak Crossing Drive in Section 15, Township 3 South, Range 8 West.
Okay. This application was tabled at the January meeting, and then again in February. This staff report does include new information. I would also note that in the previous meetings, one of the concerns expressed was that the engineer on the project was not available for questions, and he is here with us tonight. So with that, basically, this is an subdivision in the A agricultural district that has a minimum lot size of 1.5 acres. You have the setback requirements, minimum width and so forth. As proposed, the Oak Grove subdivision meets or exceeds all of these development requirements. We have lots that vary in size from a small of 1.95 acres to a large of over 40 acres, which is Lot 8. We also have now received a copy of a proposed declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions from the applicant. I have reviewed these declaration of covenants, and basically, it provides for establishment of a homeowners association and provides for the maintenance of the common open space area, which is the cluster mailbox site. Covenants also include a general statement addressing the maintenance of the ingress-egress easement along the eastern boundary of the development. It provides for the establishment of an architectural control committee, establishes a minimum finished heated floor area of 2,400 square feet exclusive of garages and porches. All the residences shall have a minimum of a 2-car enclosed garage. All the residences shall be a minimum of 75% brick veneer construction. Principal roof pitch on all residences shall be no less than 612. Any detached accessory structures may not be larger than 10 by 15 and must be constructed of the same design, materials, and colors as the principal residence on the lot. No metal or plastic buildings. It establishes a developer control period in which the developer maintains control of the homeowners association and the architectural control committee until such time as all the lots in the subdivision are sold and all of the residences are substantially constructed, and any security instrument guaranteeing the orderly development of the subdivision is released by the appropriate governing authority. It allows the developer to unilaterally approve additional and separate restrictions at any time, which may differ from lot to lot during the developer control period. And it also allows the developer to unilaterally amend the bylaws of the association in whole or in part during the developer control period. The covenants do prohibit the further subdivision of the lots. Basically, this is another preliminary plat, of course. Although we did receive information on the location of the cluster mailbox site, there really wasn't any additional information, on that point. As far as the proposed motion on this, first, we need to revise the preliminary plat to include the finished floor elevation for Lot 8. We had it for all the other lots, just not on Lot 8. Also on the declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions, revise Article 8 of the restrictive covenants, adding to the end that the words Planning Commission. Basically, it has a provision in the restrictive covenants that requires amendments to be approved by the city, but then that's all it says. It doesn't say, by the board of aldermen or by the planning commission, or, it just says the city. We just need to clarify that a little bit by adding planning commission in that point. Same thing for Article 10, amendments. And then we need to revise Article 8, restrictive covenants, Section 3, to add a statement that no such additional and/or separate restrictions that may differ from lot to lot shall be approved by the developer unless such additional and/or separate restrictions have previously been approved by the City of Hernando Planning Commission. Basically what I'm trying to say in all of these amendments or changes is that, the developer cannot unilaterally make changes however he feels like once the covenants are recorded and the plat's recorded. We as the city do not enforce covenants, but I think we have the authority to determine whether they should be changed. I mean, if we approve something because they're proposing 2,400 square foot heated floor area homes, we have to have a reasonable security that that is not going to change the day after the plat's recorded and the covenants are recorded. And then, in addition to that, we need to revise Article 8, amendments to the bylaws of the Oak Grove subdivision, adding a provision stating that, again, no amendments or other changes be made without previous approval of the planning commission. We need to address signage approved by the planning department, or excuse me, address signage approved by the planning department shall be installed at the entrance to the ingress egress easement, identifying the property addresses for lots 6 and 7 prior to the issuance of any building permit for either of those lots. You know, basically, the ingress egress easement is a driveway. So there needs to be some indication at Oak Grove Road that these houses are up at the end of this driveway. I mean, these are big lots. This is a long ingress egress easement. Emergency vehicles may not be able to tell that there are houses back there. No further lots will be added to the proposed ingress egress easement unless the access is first improved to meet all the standards and specifications of a public street. Prior to the recording of any final plat, the applicant shall submit full construction drawings for the proposed cluster mailbox facility to the Planning Commission for review and approval, conforming to the requirements of the amendment adopted by the mayor and Board of Aldermen concerning cluster mailboxes. Improvements from that point, item 6 through 14 is our standard subdivision conditions. That's my report, unless anyone has any questions.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Page? Thank you, Mr. Page. Will the applicant please come forward stating your name and address?
Nicholas Cronin, address is 3629 College Road, South Haven, Mississippi, with Civil Link Engineering representing the owner. One thing I did hear in the staff report that, about Lot 8 not having a finished floor elevation. That was kind of intentional due to the large size of the lot. I think that it would be a good idea for that finished floor elevation to be established once the location of the house is picked. So maybe a note could be added to the plat that addresses that finished floor elevation be reviewed by city engineer at time of building permit, or, you know, it's such a large lot, I can't pick one location to pick a finished floor elevation. So I don't know if a note could help address that one issue.
That's fine.
Any questions or comments from Mr. Cronin? Thank you. Is there anyone here for or against this application? Please come forward, state your name and address.
I have one clarifying question, maybe Mr. Page, if I understand correctly. So the recommendation from the staff, or the proposed motion, is to pave that easement between Lot 1, coming off of West Oak Grove Road?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought, okay.
I think we got clarity now. That's just a driveway. There's no intention for it to ever access anything else, or whether
It doesn't plan on going all the way up to
Never had plans to go up because of the floodplain. The property's not financially feasible to extend it up and do more lots. That's the end of it.
And one thing I would point out, just for your future, reference, but essentially, the city's design standards ordinance requires all access to parking to be paved. In other words, we don't really allow gravel driveways anymore. So however long this driveway is to provide access to those two lots, it would have to be paved all the way up to the house,
Okay.
whether we had the condition in there or not. I guess that's what I'm saying. But it doesn't hurt to say.
And the owner's aware of that.
And I'm sorry, and I think it was mentioned, but only Lot 6 and 7 are responsible for it, or Lot 5 is as well?
No, just 6 and 7.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Cooney? Is there anyone here for or against this application? If so, please come forward. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to grant preliminary plat approval for Oak Grove subdivision, a non-lot subdivision consisting of 8 single-family residential lots and 1 common open space lot on 64.33 total acres located on the north side of West Oak Grove Road, west of Scott Road, and east of Oak Crossing Drive in Section 15, Township 3 South, Range 8 West, based upon a finding that the submitted plat generally conforms to the requirements of the city codes and ordinances, subject to the following conditions, 1 through 14.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins? Commissioner Ashford?
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen?
Aye.
Motion for approval passes.
I do want to say thank you for including those restrictive covenants. I think that helped us a lot.
This is your first yes, isn't it? We always seem to turn it down on everything. All right. Mr. Page, item number 3, a request for a final plat approval for Section 8 of Oak Grove subdivision, 5 lots, 10.72 acres, located on the north side of West Oak Grove, west of Scott Road, and east of Oak Crossing Drive in Section 15, Township 3 South, Range 8 West.
All righty, this is simply a final plat for a portion of the lots that we just reviewed under the preliminary plat. Okay? Basically, they're not including at this time Lot 8, which is the big 40-acre lot, or lots, I guess it's 5 and 6, 6 and 7, which are the ones accessed by the access easement. Okay? That's one of the reasons why I have, if you looked at the plat that's included in your staff report, you may have noticed that it actually just says Oak Grove subdivision. I took the liberty of adding Section A to that, since we're not recording the whole thing, at this point. Again, it's the same restrictive covenants, the same requirements, everything we just talked about is the same. As far as the conditions of approval go, they are largely the same. There are a couple of small things relating to the title, for example, on the plat. But as far as the revisions to the covenants, it does require the homeowners association to be established prior to recording the plat. It does have all the same standard requirements in here. So with that, that's my report, unless anyone has any specific questions. Since we just got through talking about it, I didn't want to beat it to death.
I have more of a curious question. Why not build the back 2 lots first instead of the ones? Is there a reason
They've already got buyers for these.
for the fronts?
Yes.
Okay.
So, the other ones, they are in negotiations with some people.
Okay.
Just waiting till they actually have buyers for it.
And I didn't mention this in the previous thing, but in the covenants, let me see.
Or you keep going.
And maybe I'm reading into it, but it looked like a contradiction. Let me find what, I highlighted it. I can't find it now, hang on.
What was it again, Mr. Thorne?
It's in the covenants. here we go. Page 15, section 3, paragraph A. And I noticed on the one about all residents shall have a minimum of a 2-car enclosed garage. And then in the covenants, about halfway through that paragraph, no structures of a temporary character, and then it lists some buildings, including a garage, shall be used on any portion of the subdivision at any time, either temporary or permanent. So structures of temporary character, but also not temporary or permanent. So does that mean a resident can't build, let's say, a detached second garage?
Sorry, I lost, which number?
Page 15, section 3, paragraph A. About halfway down, there's a sentence, no structures of a temporary character, trailer, basement, tent, shack, garage, barn, or other building is used in any portion of Oak Grove subdivision at any time as a resident, either temporary or permanently. So it's kind of a contradictory sentence there.
Well,
The intention was for it to be like no trailers,
Yeah.
like FEMA trailers,
Gotcha.
that kind of stuff.
But does that,
well, Mr. Thorne, if I may,
yes, sir.
what that is saying is that none of those things that you run through, that litany of things, none of those may be used as a residence. In other words, you can't live in it. Okay? So I don't think it's saying you can't have a detached garage. I think what it's telling you is you can't use that detached garage as a place to live.
Some people will build a barn and live in it while they build their big house or
Gotcha.
what, yeah.
Okay,
Right.
just clarity, thank
Or
you.
converting their garage into an apartment for someone to live in.
Well, I prefaced that it was probably reading too much into that.
Well,
Thanks for the clarity.
Nobody's probably dug into these covenants like that.
I've read them all.
hey,
The attorney cuts and pastes those things.
Is there an issue with, I mean, we've got the cluster mailbox, and I know BJ pointed out on the staff comments. This is one of our first ones to do it, and that's why to approve a subdivision preliminary plat with the cluster mailboxes. And so I just wanted to be sure this wasn't an issue, because you had some concerns about the cluster mailbox layout and how it was on the plat.
well, at this point, because of the way this is going, I have put in there the condition that, before we record the plat, that's got to be addressed.
What needs to be done to address it?
Well, if you will recall, back when we were working on the cluster mailbox amendment, it requires more than just showing you where the location is going to be. There are requirements, for a structure, to protect the residents from the elements. It requires that the cluster mailbox supports be enclosed in a masonry, box, basically. So it talks about how you access the cluster mailbox site. In this particular case, we're not going to need to have like a separate parking area. It can just be a pull-off lane with some parallel parking spaces. But, right now, all we have is the location.
So if we approve this, should we do it subject to
Yeah, it's in there.
the planning? Oh, it is, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's in there.
Okay.
Planning
I may be
staff
getting ahead of
approved the cluster mailbox design?
That was where I was going with it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, if you feel comfortable with doing that, I'm not going to tell you no. But, since this is the first time we've done that, I didn't know if you guys wanted to have, input. It's actually item number 4
Oh, that's right there.
on the proposed motion. Whatever you guys want to do. Obviously, you have the authority to delegate anything you want to delegate. So,
We would request. Would like to request for the staff, just to save from coming back another month, to show a design of a cluster mailbox. And
That's the way the recommendation reads.
Okay.
I mean, that's what would happen. It would be approved by staff.
Well, it says planning commission.
Oh, it does.
It
Not
does say,
department.
it says planning commission.
Are you
To the planning commission.
item number 4, it says mayor and board of aldermen.
No.
Adopt.
Look at the
Well,
second
They
sentence.
adopted.
Conforming to the amendment
The
adopted.
cluster
I'm
mailboxes.
sorry, I'm sorry.
No, all I'm saying is I set it up to come back to the planning commission, because like I said, this is the first one. I didn't know how much input you guys wanted to have in it. But if
Didn't read
you
that
are
right.
comfortable with delegating it to the staff, that's fine with me, however you want to
I
do it.
think we set the standard of the majority of that, what you just described, and how its design is gonna be. And I think y'all, especially with this first one, from here on out, we'll have it approached to us, but I would suggest that we allow the staff to do that, because they have the logistics and structure in place. I mean, it's not gonna be outside of those boundaries, and I think they'll do a good job in keeping that in there. And then going forward, those would be presented with those final plats, so.
It would also save him time. He wouldn't have to come back a second month, too, is my understanding, right?
Right,
Correct.
yeah.
So we don't
So we would
want to hold him
amend-
up 2 months for a mailbox that we've already approved designs for.
So if we made a motion to approve, whoever made that, and that's what we wanted to do, then in number 4, we would have that stated to say planning department staff as opposed to planning commission. Take out that planning commission. We'll amend that, number 4.
Yeah.
we like that. Thank y'all.
And then that would be approved by staff before final record.
Correct. Again, their staff knows the boundaries of
Right.
those limits of
Yeah,
what
yeah.
we set forth.
That's
so-
right.
And then going forward, we would have those presented during our final plat approvals to look at and critique at that point, so.
Dick was like, please don't send me away again.
You might go 2 for 2 tonight, dude. I don't know. Is there any other questions or comments for Mr. Cronin? Thank you. Is there anyone here for or against this application? If so, please come forward. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant final plat approval for Section A Oak Grove subdivision, a 6-lot subdivision consisting of 5 single-family residential lots, 1 common open space lot on 10.72 total acres located on the north side of West Oak Grove Road, west of Scott Road, and east of Oak Crossing Drive in Section 15, Township 3 South, Range 8 West, based upon a finding that the submitted plat conforms to the previously approved preliminary plat and generally conforms to the requirements of the city's codes and ordinances, subject to conditions 1 through 13 with the modification of number 4, stating that the drawing shall be submitted to the planning office rather than the planning commission.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Give it to Adam.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne,
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan,
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins, Commissioner Ashworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen.
Aye.
Motion to approve the final plat passes. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to note that the rest of these will be presented by Ms. Copps.
All right, Ms. Cobb, we got item number 4, and that is a request for a final plat approval for a re-subdivision of Lot 1 on Juanita Acres subdivision 5th revision into lots 1A and 1B on 4.91 total acres located on the west side of Hall Road, south of Pleasant Hill Road, east of McInville Road, in Section 30, Township 2 South, and Range 7 West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. So this is, as stated, a final plat approval request for the re-subdivision of Lot 1 of Juanita Acres subdivision, 5th revision. And this subdivision request would create two lots, lots 1A and lot 1B. Lot 1A would have an existing residence and a detached barn that would consist of 1.5 acres. And Lot 1B would be vacant and consist of 3.41 acres. Both of the lots have direct access to Hall Road, as well as access to centralized water through the Nesbit Water Association. Sanitary sewer treatment for the lots would be provided through on-site individual treatment facilities. And also, this property is zoned AR, Agricultural Residential District, and both of the lots would meet the yard requirements for the front yard setback to be 50 feet. The side yard setbacks would be 15 feet on each side and a rear yard setback of 40 feet. With this being a final plat approval, if it's approved by the Planning Commission, it would go to the Board of Alderpersons at the meeting on March 15th. This is also the Juanita Acres subdivision. It was previously approved by the DeSoto County Planning Commission originally back in 1969 and has had revisions since. And following in the staff report on page 2, under number 3, the subdivision history of Juanita Acres is stated. And within the motion for approval of this plat, there are revisions that staff is requesting to be made. First being revising the title of the plat to read first revision to lot 8. Yeah, I was gonna, excuse me, first revision to lot 1 of the fourth revision of Juanita Acres subdivision. So that would revise the title of the final plat. Also, submitting the corrections or the revisions, there would need to be a corrected note number 5 on a 10-foot wide utility easement at the rear property line of all of the lots. Revising the plat to include a mortgagee certificate, if that is, if there is one, and also revising the owners and mortgagee certificates as stated in quotes. Portions of the motion would be the standard requirements through our subdivision. And that concludes the report. Unless there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Ms. Cobb, in the revising the plat as follows under the proposed motion, we would revise it to say first revision to lot 8 of the fourth revision.
Lot 1.
First revision to lot 1 of the fourth revision.
First revision, lot 1.
Typo on my part.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Cobb? Thank you, Ms. Cobb.
Thank you.
Will the applicant please come forward, state your name and address?
Carl Goolsby, 905 Waterford Place, South Haven, Mississippi, 38671.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Goolsby? guess nobody, anything for you, Mr. Goolsby, so.
All
Got
right,
anything to state?
could I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
This is all new to us. This is land that we inherited, my wife's, my wife's dad. This land being in a trust, between the two. So our next step is we have to have our surveyor submit, to the zoning, the plans.
Then, do you want to?
Okay.
No,
yeah.
you want me to?
Okay. Basically, you know, your plat has been submitted to the planning commission.
Okay.
You know, we anticipate that they will approve that tonight. It will go to the Board of Aldermen next Tuesday,
Okay.
a week from today, 6 o'clock here in this room, okay? Once the Board of Aldermen approves it, then your engineer or land surveyor will make a Mylar of that, which will get the signatures on, you know, so we can take it over to the courthouse to have it recorded.
Yes, sir, and he mentioned the Mylog to us once.
Right, right.
I
But
guess went
we
before
usually
that.
don't do that until after the board approves it, just to make sure that nobody's making any changes,
Yes,
you know, as a result of their approval or whatever.
okay.
That way, if something were to come up, then your surveyor could make that change before he prints out the Mylar.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions?
I think that's about it. Do I need to be present for that next meeting?
It would be advisable.
And when was that again, sir?
Next Tuesday, 6 o'clock.
March 15th.
Yep, right here.
You say 15?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here for or against this application? Please come forward, state your name and address. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant final plat approval to the re-subdivision of Lot 1 of Juanita Acres subdivision, 4th revision, 2 lots, 4.91 acres, located on the west side of Hall Road, south of Pleasant Hill Road, and more specifically known as 1341 Hall Road in Section 30, Township 2 South, Range 7 West, based upon a finding that the submitted plat generally conforms to the requirements of the city's codes and ordinances, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, revise the title of the plat to read First Revision to Lot 1 of the 4th revision of Juanita Acres subdivision, as well as numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne,
Aye.
Commissioner Gordon,
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins, Commissioner Ashworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen.
Aye.
Motion to approve passes. All right, Ms. Cobb, item number 5, request for a final plat approval on Saucier Point Commercial Subdivision. I hope I said that right. Saucier Point Commercial Subdivision, 1 lot, 4.4 total acres, 4.04 total acres, located on the southeast corner of US Highway 51 and North Parkway Street in Section 12, Township 3 South, Range 8 West.
So this is a final plat request for, and I was also pronouncing it Saucier, but I guess it's Saucier, for Saucier Point Commercial Subdivision. It's a 1-lot subdivision consisting of 4.04 acres. This is at the southeast corner of US Highway 51 and North Parkway. This proposed plat would record Lot 1, which would allow the construction of a convenience store at that site. This is also a The property is also located on a corner lot, and it has access to city water and sanitary sewer services, and also direct access to Highway 51 and North Parkway. The property is currently zoned C2 Highway Commercial District, and the lot will meet the C2 district yard requirements, and that consists of a front yard setback of 50 feet, side yard setback of 0, rear yard setback of 20 feet, no minimum lot size, no minimum lot width at the building line. And as a part of approving the final plat, there are revisions that are requested by staff under the proposed motion in 1A, revising the certificates to read 2022 as opposed to 2011. But we wanted to read 2022. Also, in B, correct note number 7 to note that the side yard setback is 0 feet rather than 10 feet, and the utility easement at the rear property line is 10 feet, not 5 feet. Also revising the plat to include a 30-foot wide landscape buffer along the eastern property line, and revising the owners' and mortgagees' certificates to state, as quoted in 1D. And the remaining requirements are from our standard subdivision regulations. That would be numbers 2 through 9. And that completes the report.
Questions or comments for Ms. Cobb?
Yeah, Ms. Cobb, is this just a convenience store, not convenience with gas? Is that my understanding?
They would have to ask for a variance on that, or conditional
After
use,
the
correct?
fact, right? Like,
For
so
gas.
this would get,
Tanks.
It's a filling.
No. This property is zoned C2 Highway Commercial.
Okay.
And, convenience store with gas pumps is a permitted use in C2.
Okay.
It's only in C1.
That's what it
where you
is.
have a conditional use requirement for gas pumps. And as far as I can tell you on this one, it does include gasoline pumps.
it does include.
Yes, we've seen the site plan for it already. That's kind of one of those deals that pop up from time to time where we'll get an application for what's called a certificate of development, which is basically our design review of a building. And we'll find out as part of that process that the lot's never been recorded. And so that's what's really driving this application.
Well, the reason I ask, and Mr. Carter's the same thing, remember that one we had?
That was C1, that's where I got confused.
Up by the high school where they were asking for a variance? I was just, because I don't see anywhere in here where it mentions gas station, just convenience store. Okay.
Any other questions or comments for Ms. Cobb?
Thank you.
The 30-foot wide buffer will, of course, have to include the 6-foot
Yes.
wall that we talked about earlier.
In fact, I can tell you that the certificate of development application already shows that.
Any other questions or comments from Ms. Cobb or Mr. Page? Is the applicant here? If so, please come forward, state your name and address.
Robbie Jones, Jones Davis and Associates, 8849 Center Street, South Haven. Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything to add to that. We'll concur with the staff recommendations.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from Mr. Jones? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here tonight for or against this application? If so, please come forward, state your name and address. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant final plat approval to the Saucier Point Commercial Subdivision, one lot, 4.04 total acres, located on the southeast corner of US Highway 51 and North Parkway Street in Section 12, Township 3 South, Range 8 West, based upon a finding that the submitted plat generally conforms to the requirements of the city's codes and ordinances, subject to conditions 1 through 9.
Second.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen?
Aye.
Motion to approve passes. Thank you. And Ms. Cobb, the last item tonight is the request for a final plat approval re-subdivision of Lot 1 of Boone Subdivision, first revision into lots 1A and 1B on 4.69 total acres, located on the west side of US 51 Highway, south of Green Tea Road and north of Crossroads Boulevard in Section 1, Township 3 South, Range 8 West, more specifically known as 237 Highway 51 South.
So this proposed plat, request for final plat approval would divide Lot 1, or subdivide Lot 1 into lots 1A and 1B. Lot 1A would be a vacant lot and consist of 1.875 acres, while Lot 1B would contain an existing residence and a detached storage building and consist of 2.818 acres. Lot 1A would have direct access off of US Highway 51, and Lot 1B would have access to both Highway 51 on the east and Old Highway 51 to the west. Both lots have access to centralized water and sanitary sewer. And the property is currently Zone A, Agricultural District. And as proposed, the lots would meet the following yard requirements for the front yard setback to be 50 feet, 15 feet on each side, and 40 feet in the rear, as well as the minimum lot size, the minimum width at the building line, and the maximum building height for the existing house. For under staff comments, with the approval tonight, this final plat would move on to the Board of Alderpersons meeting on March 15th. And also, the first revision to the Boone subdivision was recorded originally July 18th, 1995. There were no restrictive covenants recorded at that time, and there have not been any recorded since. Also, the title of the recorded plat for Lot 1 is the first revision of Boone subdivision. And part of the motion, this would also be in the motion, revising the title to read second revision of Boone subdivision, since this is a subdivision of just Lot 1 as opposed to the entire subdivision. So the request for revisions under the proposed motion, starting with the title of the plat to read re-subdivision of Lot 1 of Boone subdivision, first revision. And also under number 2, correcting the notes for the building setbacks, that the plat should state that the side yard requirement is 15 feet on each side and not in total, and the rear yard setback is 40 feet as opposed to 20 feet, and the street side yard requirement is 35 feet and not 15 feet. Also revising the plat to label the utility easements along the western property lines of lots 1A and 1B as 10 feet, not 5 feet. Revising the plat to label the street to the west of Lot 1B as Old Highway 51. Revising the foot building setback line along US Highway 51 to the northern property line of Lot 1A, and also revising the owners and mortgagee certificates statement, and relabeling the plat as a final plat and not a preliminary plat. And lastly, revising the zoning district label within the plat title to A agricultural district and not R12 district. And the remaining numbers 3 to 11 are part of our standard subdivision regulations. Also, I'd like to add, if you could look at the aerial, that would be the aerial view, the second map within the staff report. There is faintly, you can see a semblance of, if this were blown up, you would be able to see a driveway that is currently shown towards the southern part of the lot. And we would also request that an access easement be added so that there will be access to Lot 1A, since we're not quite sure how far the driveway extends from Lot 1B. So just making sure there's access to Lot 1A, adding an access easement also to the plat.
It's a situation where 1B has frontage on 51, but there is an existing driveway on 1A that goes into a Y. You know, and if the applicant is expecting to use that existing drive to access, you know, the other lot, there needs to be an easement on it.
Any questions or comments from Ms. Kyle? Thank you, Ms. Kyle. Is the applicant here? No applicant in attendance? I thought that was him out there. That wasn't him. Just for record, is there anyone here for or against this application? And do I have a motion?
I've made too many, somebody else is gonna have to do it. I'm tired.
Motion to approve. Motion to grant final plat approval to the re-subdivision of Lot 1 of Spoon Subdivision, first revision, 2 lots, 4.69 total acres located on the west side of US Highway 51, south of Green Tea Road, north of Crossroads Boulevard, and more specifically known as 237 Highway 51 South, in Section 1, Township 3 South, Range 8 West, based upon the finding that the submitted plat generally conforms to the requirements of the city's codes and ordinances, subject to the following conditions. Items 1 through 11, with the additional item 12, adding an access easement from Lot 1B to 1A.
Second.
Second.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins? Commissioner Ashworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Skeeney?
Aye.
Motion to approve passes. Any other whole business? We're still at a low with that, so do you have a motion to adjourn?
All of us.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn, second.
Second, Adam and
What was that?
Adam first, Russell second. Now all in favor. Y'all.
Thank you.